everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and today I'm going to be doing a video response to Tyler Stevenson. He actually tagged me in a video of something that he started called 6 Guilty Pleasured Video Games. So the topic is pretty obvious, I don't really need to explain much, although I do remember doing a video that is kind of similar to this topic, although it was worded as games that you like that most people don't, but, I feel like I would want to do it again, this time talk about 6 games, and also talk about, other games that I haven't really talked much about. So yeah, I'm very thankful for Tyler for tagging me in his video for that. I actually do like the topic, and of course I also do like some of the ones that he picked in his video, like Street Fighter, the movie, the game. I actually don't think it's that bad of a fighting game. But with that said, let's get right to it. So the first one I want to mention is an NES game, and there's quite a few I could have mentioned in here, but the one I want to talk about is a Color Dreams game, and that happens to be Silent Assault. Okay, so when it comes to Color Dreams games, yeah, most of them are kinda shit, but the thing is though, I actually do really like Crystal Mines. I personally think that's probably their best game. But I've reviewed that one way long ago, so I don't really need to say much more on it though, but I found that Silent Assault was actually okay. I mean, it's not great, but I can at least say it's way better than most of the other games that they put out. So this game tries really hard to be a Contra clone, and yeah, it's nowhere near as good. I personally did not find it to be awful, but it definitely did not have the same quality where the jumping in it is just not as smooth and responsive, but I found that the shooting worked okay. But I do like the settings and some of the bosses that you get to fight. They're all pretty weird and over the top, and I kinda like it. I don't know, it kind of feels like you're playing as a soldier who just took a drop of acid and you're just shooting all the invisible dragons or some shit. I don't know, that's just what I think of when I play this game. But yeah, I really didn't think this game was unplayable and as bad as Robo Demons or Baby Boomer or any of that bullshit. So yeah, I actually thought it was alright. It was playable. I actually managed to beat the game, so it's not impossible to beat. So now, as for the next game I want to mention, is a Game Gear game, and it is a game that I actually used to play in a collection called the Sonic Gems Collection. Yes, we're talking about a Sonic game here. But before I talk about the one I want to mention here, is that there's actually quite a few games on this collection that could qualify as this easily. I mean, for example, there's Sonic R, which, is a game that isn't really great, but I do kind of like it, mostly for the music though. And then there's Sonic the Fighters, which was kind of an interesting concept, but unfortunately it was just not executed well. But I did like the fact that SPO was playable in it. I thought that was awesome. So yeah, the one I want to talk about is one of the Game Gear games that was included, and that happens to be Tails Adventure. So yes, how I first played this game was within the Sonic Gems collection, like how I played most of these games for the first time. And when I first seen it, I was like, well, this sounds kind of interesting, a game where you just play as Tails before he met Sonic, that sounds like an interesting idea. But after playing it for a while, I realized that it was not exactly what I was expecting. I mean, it's still a side-scrolling platformer, obviously, but it's not the same type of platformer that makes a Sonic game. So you walk around as Tails, and the game is very slow-paced, by a lot. And you can't jump on enemies to kill them, instead you have to use your equipment, like your bombs, and yes, you can actually get more equipment in the game if you explore a little. And speaking of exploration, one thing that is kind of interesting in this game is that sometimes it can kind of feel like a Metroidvania in the sense that you actually have to go back to older levels that you already played through with newer equipment so you can access newer areas to get other equipment that is necessary. So I do think that aspect of it is pretty cool. So yeah, knowing all this, I can totally understand why people would not like this game for that it does not play anything like a typical Sonic game. But I do like it myself for that I do think it is an interesting change of pace, and also I do think that the game was actually kind of fun. But of course, the game does have its issues. For an example, the fact that this game is on the Game Gear and everything is so big, of course, it's really hard to make out where you're supposed to be sometimes because everything is just so zoomed in. I feel like if this game was on the Master System, it probably would have looked a little better. Also, the game does have some slowdown when there's a lot of action going on. Also, I found this game can be kinda difficult to start out with. In fact, back in the day when I used to play this game a lot on the Gems collection, I never beat it back then. Although I did get really close from beating it though, but the thing was though, this game can get kinda confusing on where you're supposed to go sometimes and what equipment you're supposed to use at the right time, and I didn't have internet back then, shockingly enough, so yeah, I kinda struggled with the game, but I still liked it though. And recently, I've actually been replaying the game again, and this time I'm actually gonna try and beat it, and so far, I'm actually still really liking it. Alright, so the next one I want to mention here is a PS1 game, and it's from a series that is pretty much beloved by most Sony fans, and that happens to be Twisted Metal 4. Okay, so let's get one thing out of the way first, is that out of the PS1 Twisted Metal games, 2 is definitely the best one. I don't think many people would argue against that. But when it came to 3 and 4, this is when they were handled to a different developer, being 989 Studios, and well, 3 I was not a fan of. I mean, it did have some interesting ideas, but for the most part, it just wasn't nearly as good as the ones that came before. And as for Twisted Metal 4, well, I personally did found this one was somewhat enjoyable, but of course, not as good as 2, but I thought it was at least enjoyable enough. So I do like a lot of the levels in here. I think some of them are actually kind of interesting and creative. For an example, I really love the bedroom level where everything is like really small and you're just driving around shooting at each other in a huge bedroom. I like that. That's kind of cool. Kind of reminds me of something out of Rescue Rangers. And then there was Neon City, which had that secret where you can get a helicopter to pick you up and put you into an area where you can get like a whole bunch of power-ups which are really OP. And one feature that I did thought was interesting is that in this one, you can actually create your own car. Now, of course, it's very limited, and it's nowhere near as good as, I don't know, let's say like Need for Speed customization, but still a pretty cool feature that a Twisted Metal game has done, and yet I don't think they've ever picked up this idea again. Now, this may sound like a pretty decent Twisted Metal game, and I do think it is, but of course, it does have some things that I don't like about it. For an example, a lot of the characters and cars in this game are just so fucking stupid. Now, there is a few exceptions to this. For an example, I do like most of the boss car designs. I do think those ones are pretty cool. And I also do like Captain Grimm, where they made him like a pirate skeleton. I thought that was a kind of interesting idea. And also I do like Quattro for that he's like an alien that has like a futuristic motorcycle. And the character Calypso being playable is pretty interesting, and they gave him a super OP special attack. But one thing that is kind of dumb is that he uses a fire truck. Like, why? Like, how the hell did he get a fire truck? But as for the rest of the characters though, my god, are they so fucking cringe. So you got a generic fat garbage man, you also got Pizza Boy, cause oh my god, and then there's also like the Jonesons, which is like a family car type of deal. I don't fucking know, it was fucking dumb. Even back then I thought it was the most stupidest shit ever. And of course, how can I forget that Rob Zombie is playable in this. Now, back then, I would imagine this was probably considered the most coolest and edgiest shit ever, but looking back on it now, yeah, it doesn't really age well. But stupid characters aside though, as for like the gameplay and its function and all that kind of stuff, it is pretty good, I do like it, but I do remember sometimes you would have like a glitch would happen where a car would get like stuck onto the wall, and trying to get off the wall was like a real nuisance. But other than that, I don't remember anything like major game breaking. I can say this, I definitely do like 4 way more than 3. 3 I just found to be completely forgettable, to be honest. Alright, so as for the next game I want to mention, this is yet another PS1 game, but this one is a Japan-only one that I actually found out about in recent years. And I haven't reviewed it, although I have thought about doing a review on it though, but ever since I did an entire stream on it, twice, well, I figured that would be enough. But hey, I want to talk about it again, because I do like a lot of aspects about it, and that happens to be Goku Densetsu Magic Beast Warriors. So it's a 2D fighting game with some really weird sprites. In fact, this was actually a very early PS1 release in Japan. And this game is weird. Like, really fucking weird. So to sum it up, it's basically Journey to the West if you mixed it with Power Rangers and all of its cheesiness, full force, and there you go, that's Magic Beast Warriors. So you can only imagine how bizarre some of these cutscenes are. And yeah, they're live action cutscenes with all like the suits and everything. In fact, if you actually beat the game in the credits, it actually shows a little bit on how they made it, and I thought it was kinda interesting. Also, the music in this game is underrated as hell. It has like a lot of really awesome like rock, heavy metal tracks. In fact, one of them kind of sounds like a Carry On Wayward Son by the band Kansas, which is pretty dope. So yeah, you can imagine that I put this in my guilty pleasure list because of its weirdness, but I actually do think it is a pretty solid fighting game. It's all really responsive. I do like the movesets for all the different characters. But the biggest flaw that this game has, though, is the lack of features and options. So all you get is story mode and versus mode, and that's literally it. And just by the way, in versus mode, you can't do one player versus computer, it has to be like 2 players. So really, for single player content, you really only have one mode to play, which is really unfortunate. Even fighting games that came before this one, that's pretty lackluster. And as for the options, well, there really is no option, so meaning that there's no way to set the difficulty. And trust me, this game can get pretty fucking hard, so if you suck at fighting games, then there's a chance that you will probably get your ass kicked easily. So that really is unfortunate, but other than this though, I do think it is a pretty good fighting game that is really entertainingly weird. Alright, so as for the second last one I want to mention here, so this is going to be an RPG that I actually have talked about in the past, but no, it's not the one that you're thinking of. So the one I specifically want to talk about here is Artin Elico 3, the Black Sheep in the Artin Elico series. Now I have done a review on this game many years ago, but I just really wanted to talk about it again since it has been a while, at least when it comes to talking about the games and not the music. Because I'm sure like 100% of you know by now, but I fucking love the music in all of these games, including this one. So to sum up this game, which is kinda hard to do simply because there's a lot to it, well basically these games are all about playing as a male character and you get involved in various situations where you end up meeting 2 female characters. But the 2 female characters are not typical females, they are actually considered Ravatails, a type of species where they can actually perform song magic. And to level up the song magic, you have to go to a dive shop where you get to go inside the Ravatail's mind and you get to experience what they went through in their past life, learning more about the character. Personally, I always found that the concept was pretty cool, and believe it or not, this was actually the very first Artin Elico game I ever played. I didn't even know it was even had a series before. So okay, this all may sound really interesting for those that never played the game, but what is it exactly that makes this game the Black Sheep? So when it comes to the story and its concepts, well, this one got really out of hand when it came to the fan service stuff. So there's a lot of huge anime tits, there's also a lot of picture cutscenes where they are very suggestive. And there was one scene in this game, and I can explain it without spoiling anything, where the main character has to reach a crystal outside of this chick, and the way how they did the dialogue is like the most awkward shit ever. So yes, very weird anime shit. Also, this game does have a lot of typical anime tropes, like the main character is like a bitch guy who can't even talk to women properly, and it also has a tsundere and a quiet type, as usual. So basically, if you're not a fan of anime, you probably won't like this game, and I totally get it. But that's not to say that the first 2 games in the series had weird moments. It does, but the thing is though, the weird moments in those games are very subtle and not nearly as over the top. Like, I can recommend the first game to more people, mostly because in that game, it's easier to look past those weird moments because they're just so few of them and they're not crazy weirdness. Where in this game, on the other hand, you can't ignore it. It's gonna be in your face all the time. So that's the story reason why that this game is the Black Sheep, but as for the gameplay reason, well, this one's actually more of an action RPG, where the first game was turn-based, and the second game was kinda unique, where it was half turn-based, half action. Where this one, it's full-out action, and yeah, you can mindlessly just hit everything in sight and you'll do fine, but of course, what you want to do for the bosses and all that is that you want to hit the enemy at the right rhythm so then you can gain your song magic faster to blast them with. Now, I haven't played this game in quite a few years, so I have a feeling my opinion on it might change compared to what I said in my old-ass review on it, but I do remember liking the gameplay enough, though. But I personally do like that the first game's gameplay was just simple turn-based and was just easy to understand. But I do appreciate the fact that they did try to do something different here, and I do remember it working okay. But yeah, I think I've gone on long enough about this game, but to sum it up though, as weird as this game is though, I still like it for what it is, for that I do think the story does have its really good moments without the forced fan service shit. I also really love like the different settings that you go to. I really like the art style and the backgrounds. And the dive part sections I thought were pretty interesting as well, and obviously, like I said, like a bajillion times throughout my channel, the music is like god tier. Okay, so as for the final game I'm gonna mention here, and this is another weird anime game, but it's not an RPG though. Instead, it's a rhythm game, and that happens to be the Hatsune Miku games on PS3, Project Diva F. This was another game I actually did a review on years ago on my channel, but I would not recommend looking up that review. It was back when I used to try and do the whole, like, AVGN skit style shit, and it just didn't work well. But I did have some good memories making the video though, so I do have some fondness of it, but it's a little hard for me to go back and watch though. But if you guys want to see some stupid cringy bullshit though, then there it is. But yeah, with that said though, I still do like these games. They're very simple rhythm games where you just gotta press the button at the right time, you know, all simple shit. And I do like rhythm games. I think they are kind of fun games to play, where that you can play a game and listen to music that you really like at the same time, killing two birds with one stone. But when it comes to my favorite rhythm games, that would have to be like Rock Band, Guitar Hero, DDR, and this one would be up there as well. But yeah, when it comes to Hatsune Miku music, okay, so this is going to be the part that it's either you're gonna like it, or you're gonna absolutely despise it. But as for me though, well, I actually do like quite a few. I mean, I like it enough that I actually bought the game. Like, I found there were more songs in the games that I liked than ones that I disliked. For an example, like the song Stay With Me can go fuck itself, and the song God Tier Tune is like the opposite of God Tier. It's more like shit tier tune. And as you know me, I love all sorts of music, ranging from many different metal genres, of rock, progressive, trance, techno, jazz, and whatever the fuck this shit is. So yeah, not much to say here. It's a game where it's either going to be for you or it isn't, and like I've said many times on my channel, I like a lot of weird shit, and Hatsune Miku is definitely one of the weird shits that I like. So that takes us to the end of the video, so I have to say thanks to Tyler Stevenson for tagging me. This was a lot of fun to do. I like talking about these kind of weird shits again. Now, when it comes to the video tags, all I'm going to say is that I'm just going to leave it up to you guys, so you guys can decide if you want to do a video response to this, since I do think it is a very interesting question, and if you don't want to do a video response, then leave a comment down below. And as always, thanks for watching and commenting, and have yourselves a great day.